Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. Heading out of the high desert into Hollywood. About an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. So on my drives I get bored and I figure I'll find something to yak about and talk to you guys. And this morning it's kind of after that video I did with Draco. And Draco is what I'm calling fondly the Reckless Dutch 2.0. He is a clone of Rocky. Now I've had him for a couple weeks now, and right away I evaluated that the trainer that has got him, that brought him to me, is the same guy that bought Rocky. Okay, and he learned a lot from Rocky, learned a lot from me, and when I gave him lessons on working Rocky and got into it, and he's got a pretty good baseboard ability now at luring and creating behaviors, and he's on point. He's actually got more in the bag as far as exactness and that sort of thing than I do, okay? And that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. He looks good. You know, I've seen some of the dogs he's working, he's feeding his feed to Instagram and he's looking sharp, you know? But I live in a different world. I've got probably thousands of dogs under my belt doing this since I was 12 years of age, and I have something that I want out of an animal because I create a product. If you get a dog from me, it'll probably be something you'll never have again in that quality. And it's because I look at it as a piece of art. I am producing something that's a piece of me. It's like if I did a piece of woodwork and I did that woodwork, and there would be a piece of me or a piece of art that I would paint a picture. There would only be one of those, right? And that's true with the dogs, because we get to a point with a skill level where we can understand how to mold, shape. You hear me talking about all the time. Take that piece of clay and mold and shape it and produce a product, right? I proudly produce a pretty darn good executive protection dog. That's what I really want. I want a dog that has strength, has confidence, has the obedience that tops it off, and just has a certain demeanor of how they carry themselves that fulfill the goal of producing the product that I produce. And what is that? My criteria is a dog I can take any place with you, friendly and fine, but if I tell him to eat you, he's going to eat you, okay? But he's got to be stable, he's got to be well developed. And that means that I have a whole myriad of things that I have to hit my color palette as I'm painting this picture, as I'm molding, shaping, and forming that dog from a young dog. That's what I enjoy the most, is puppies, right? So there's a lot more that goes into it than just heel, sit down, stay. Can I do the fancy stuff? Sure. I think I proved that with Rocky, and I proved it with a lot of dogs. I'll give some more videos coming up. I found a neat little camera set for the park that I'm going to be doing some stuff with Joker and with Buddy, and you'll see it from a kind of a distance, a different camera set. Remember, I don't have a crew to follow me around with a camera and put in the music and make it look all fancy. And that's what it's becoming, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I'm enjoying myself watching some of this digital magic that's coming together, and companies and stuff that's being done with digital magic when you've got that kind of crew. It's a piece of art in itself, right? And that's neat. I mean, I envy it. You know, I'd love to have a camera crew to be able to follow me around and be able to show off, and I think I could probably do, if not as good, if not better than they do in following that storyline that they're putting out. And they're doing a great job with some of this stuff. But so off of that subject, let's go back to molding, shaping, and forming and producing a piece of artwork. And basically having the skill to be able to do that is a lot more than just heel, sit down, stay. Just like I posted this morning and letting you guys see Draco. And when he first came to me, the trainer is doing a lot of luring, got this dog into doing behaviors. He's tight, and he's only 7 months old. So he's an insecure young puppy. It's a Dutch puppy, right? Very high energy outflow, and he reminded me so much of Rocky. I mean, right away I started talking about, man, that's a clone, you know. I'm real impressed. I got to see, and right away I sensed that he had all the things in the bag that I would have had, as far as the explosion releases, the spinning on the bowls, and all the stuff that you got him doing, right? Admirable, admirable, don't get me wrong. But there's so much more that goes into building what I call the inner core, okay? The inner core of the dog. Now, what makes that inner core up in the dog? Well, first and foremost, you hear it talked about all the time. Genetics, okay? You got to have genetics. If you don't have genetics, you're starting out with half of a ability. You know, if you got shitty clay, right? You can't mold it, shape it, and form it that way. It cracks. It's, you know, it's not a good product to start with, right? But if you start with good, supple clay and you have a good product and you sourced it the right way and it's some good stuff, you know that it's going to be viable for what you're going to produce. That's what matters, right? So genetics matter, okay? Don't get me wrong. But they're not everything. If you took the best dog in the world and you don't do the right things, you're not going to be able to, you just blown it. I mean, I just recently had a dog that came to me that had been stuck in the backyard. The guy imported the puppy over from the Netherlands, KNPV stock, and the dog was a waste. And it was sad. It was very sad, you know. If I would have had that dog in my hands from a puppy and be able to take that genetic makeup and be able to take that and mold it, shape it, and form it into something, okay? But now, let's get into the subject. Am I talking about behavior of heel, sit down, stay? No, that's only one aspect. That is a small aspect, to be honest with you. I need to get the dog luring. I need to get him into toys. I need to grow him in the methodical way that I would, going all the tools in the tool bag. First it starts with luring, then it starts into toys, and you're waiting for the dog to mature. But in between all that, you have to have a mixture of building strength within that animal. And that's where we get into child development, right? People, places, things, how I handle that environment that brings out the best in that animal and gives the dog the most strength. That's something I can't give you because every dog is different. Every situation is different. Your ability to manage environment and understand that you're managing environment to a certain degree is what's important, right? So what I've done with Rocky when he first came to me, he's very, not Rocky, listen to me, I'm calling him Rocky, Draco, the Reckless Dutch 2.0, Draco. What I've done with Draco when I first came is just let my gut tell me what's going on, you know. The owner wants me to be doing heel, sit down, stay, and I'm trying to tell him, no, you know, you're going to waste the value that I have to give you because I could do that, don't get me wrong. But he's got that in the bag. He's got that wired. There's no reason that I need to waste my time doing that because he's going to be able to do the job when he gets the dog back. Believe me, there's no reason for that. What he doesn't have the ability and understanding to be able to do is how to draw out strength out of that animal and give the dog confidence, assertiveness, and everything else that the genetics will start to show, right? So I saw a dog that was very clingy. Want to be with me all the time, kind of a nervous behavior. That's normal with those little Dutchies and Malinois, they show that. But he hadn't done anything to develop this dog to go out and away from him and to be confident and outgoing and all this. This takes a little bit more gut feeling of dog training is what I call it, right? That feel. And every dog is different, okay? So, you know, one genetic makeup will be different than other. People sit here where they argue all the time, they don't argue, but you hear the conversations all the time about the Malinois. You know, it's not about the Malinois as a breed, it's about the genetic makeup of where that dog's been bred. What genetic basket does he come out of? Is it KNPV stock? Is it Malinois AKC been washed down with Americans? Is it FCI stock? There we get into the Dutch Shepherds because there's this big thing now that they're only recognizing the FCI as far as on paper, right, in the genetic makeup of the Dutch Shepherd. Reality and truth, there's a whole, but they call them herders. And they consider them a mixed breed because they've been thrown back to a lot of breeds, and they're aware of that. You know, I have a theory about that genetic basket and the KNPV basket. I think that they're a little bit more open to breeding dogs with strength, and they're after the overall dog. And their breed is important, but they want to make sure that the dog's going to do the job. And after 9/11, those guys that are breeders and those dogs that are over there in KNPV in Holland that are doing the sport of KNPV, which is more related to a working dog, police dog, right? The whole sport. There's a culture in itself that, because of that culture, because of that environment and how they build their dogs, creates a whole different genetic makeup, right? There's the difference. Where is the genetics coming from that basket creates something in that genetic makeup? That's the difference. And people don't understand that. They call them Malinois and they think reality and truth. Where is that genetic makeup coming from, right? The Czech dogs. Czech dogs have a certain genetic makeup because of that whole culture of how they build their dogs over there, right? Every culture and then the sports that are wrapped around that culture and how they build their dogs is what over time creates a genetic stamp in that animal that has genetics pouring out of that dog that can be related. I'll give you a good example. When I was breeding Arrow and I was getting some of the stock with Kilo and the KNPV stuff, bottom line was they were going crazy on the bull. You ever seen a puppy do that? You will if you get around the KNPV and the Dutchies and the Malinois. You'll see this. You'll have a bull in the run, and you've fed the dog, and the puppy's sitting there going crazy, barking after that bull, butting it all over the place. He'll do that all friggin' day long. Where's that coming from? Genetic stamp. A genetic stamp of how they've bred those dogs and what they're looking for and what they bring out in that dog, right? You ever see them do the KNPV where they're getting them to chase the keys, that little brass thing? They get that imprint right away. Or the box, for the guarding of the box and the dogs on top of that box barking. They create this from a very young age, and they instill it in the animal, and they choose for it, right? Just like in Germany, they choose for a really deep mouth bite, and that genetic stamp is in a good Schutzen dog, and they're looking for that within the Shepherd, where they have a really deep mouth bite and a good grip. They call it their grips, right? They really concentrate on that within the sport of Schutzen. That's genetic stamp, right? So back to molding, shaping, and forming a puppy, right? How you treat them is so important, right? And what you do with that dog is what's going to bring out that strength in the animal. Okay, you'll find me sometimes, depending on where the dog's at and what I'm feeling and sensing in the animal and the puppy, when I'm trying to develop these things, I'll grab the dog by the jowl and I'll give a big old squeeze and kind of yank on it, give him a hard pat. I call it rough love, right? Let's go, come on. My attitude is always kind of leading out front. I'm doing what I did this morning on that one video. I'm pushing the dog away. All right, go on, get. And Draco, Reckless Dutch 2.0, was clingy as all hell when he came to me. And he finally, after 1 or 2 weeks, you hear me kind of lamenting on that video, the puppy finally coming out of it. Now he's starting to go out and sniff. He's starting to be more interested in where Joker's at instead of worried about me, right? He was in a worried, clingy, anxiety state of mind when he first came to me, only because the owner had been doing so much of the luring and keeping the dog close to him in pattern sets that created behaviors. That's great, but he wasn't doing anything to develop anything else in the animal because of one, A, he either doesn't know how to do it, or his center, his main emphasis is all about doing behaviors that he's showing off on Instagram. And that's not a no harm, no foul. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just trying to make you realize that it's a lot more that goes into developing a puppy and developing a strong dog. And I was down at that NADF trial this weekend, and I got to see Psych. I run into him all the time. We've known each other for a lot of years. And he is a lot like me in the respect of what I call a dog man. For me, myself, when I look at trainers, I look at a lot of these kids coming up and go, poof, down the trainer, hanging a shingle on the wall. They have no clue because they have no dogs under their belt, and they're learning on the customer's dime, right? And neither harm nor foul, but the customer's the one that suffers, right? You've heard me talk about this all the time. And that's where I had a guy come up to me in the parking lot yesterday, and he goes, oh, and he mentioned the word mentor, you know, and he wanted to get into dog training. And I asked him if he had a dog. He didn't even have a dog. He wants to go to Tom Rose's school. So he's got his head in the right place, the right thing. He didn't know anything about Michael Ellis. No big deal. But he wants to become a professional trainer. This is where his head's pointing. But he has no clue, right? And that's fine. So I spent 10 minutes with him, yakking at him as I'm walking out into the store, and he's going out of the store. And I'm trying to plant some things in his head that are my principles and my points of view in regards to the profession and what I would do with a young person that came into the profession. And I'll say it again, you guys have heard me say it before, is that if it was me and I was really wanting to get into the career and really have somebody that gave longevity and really got respect from my peers and allowed me to become the professional that I really want to be, right, I would do it differently than the herd of cattle that's out there doing it, okay? The herd is doing it like they want to be a different trainer. They go out and they sniff around. They might take one dog, get into a club, like Elevated Bike Club is an example. Not that this is just an example, right? and they go out and they start working out when they have one dog they're working with, and before you know it, they feel confident. They go out and they get certified, maybe in the street league, or maybe they get certified as a PSA handler, and within no time they hang out a shingle like a Poof Dom trainer, and they start trying to struggle and survive in their own business. Now that's the herd. That's the way it's being done all throughout the LA Basin, probably all throughout the United States. It's, in my mind, the wrong way to do it. You need to do it the old-fashioned way, and you need to earn it, okay? This is the way I did it when I was a kid. I went out and I worked for a training firm, and I lived in the back of that kennel for 2 years before I came back and hung my own shingle up. Now, back then, they didn't have all the schools and all the stuff, all the knowledge that we've got online, all the internet. But now we live in an instant gratification society where everybody wants to be poofed up, okay? If I want to be a photographer, I go out and buy the best camera. It's got all the stuff to do it on computer, and before I know it, poofed, I'm a professional photographer. And that's not the way it was done in the old days. It was done by going to college, and you got yourself a photojournalist major, right? You went to college and you earned it, right? And it took you longer. You went and you got an apprenticeship and you worked for companies. And that's being still done to a certain extent. But there's more kids that are going out and hanging up a shingle and going poofta than there is any other way, that instant gratification. And you're only doing yourself a disservice by doing that, because you're not getting the experience level that I'm talking about if you did it my way. Go out, go through Michael Ellis's school, get your certificate, then go find a training firm like Elevated Canine, right? And work for them for 2 years, okay? Pay your dues and set yourself a thing on the calendar that you are not going to quit. You are going to work for somebody else for at least 2 years so that you can get enough dogs under your belt with the guidance of a professional training firm that's already been there and done that, and living and adhering to this level of professionalism. You will learn how to handle more dogs. In other words, a load. You're going to have a load. It's not going to be just one dog you're training, guys. You're going to have to train 3 to 5, 10, whatever, how many dogs you're going to have to handle. And you're going to have to be able to produce product with that load of dogs. And you're going to have to understand different breeds. Every breed is different. And then the general mix of the customer and the dog that bring you a whole different, and it's a multitude. It's like rolling the dice. No dog and no customer and dog are ever the same. They're all different. Every one of them. They're going to throw you so many curves it's not even funny. And as you get more dogs and more customers under your belt, now you understand how to read the animal, read the customer, educate the customer, and be able to solve their problems and get them, more importantly than solving the problem, is get them in tune, because everything in the end is what? Their relationship with their dog and that individual animal that they have, and that animal hinges on them, because the dog is a product of 2 things. Can you repeat it? I bet you can if you've been watching my videos. What's a dog a product of 2 things? What 2 things is a product of a dog? Genetics and environment, right? The genetic package, whatever breed type you've got, the genetics that you have behind that dog is number 1. And number 2, and it's everything, is your environment, which is the owner, the person that dog is thriving off of. They're a sponge for everything that's happening. How that person treats them and what they do with them is what creates that personality in that animal, along with the genetic package, right? So a dog is a product of 2 things. And you are going to have to work with that customer in such a way that you can solve their problems and get them to be more in tune with their animal and have that relationship that's going to matter with their dog, right? I'm going to Hollywood right now to work with Draco's owners. They're from Hollywood, and their lifestyle is totally different in that area, so it's a different customer to have to deal with, and you have to make sure that you try to educate them to a certain point. That's where we're at with Draco, the German Shepherd. They're having a problem right now, and they need to take enough lessons that they can get in tune with that animal, and they can start to flourish and start to have a beneficial relationship between the family, so that dog goes from what I've given him. I've got the dog working. The dog works like a top. He's great with me because I know how to play the instrument, right? But they now need to learn how to play that instrument. They have to be in tune with that and be able to use environment to the best of their ability and be able to get that dog in tune with them and have that relationship that matters, that they can grow with, that now I have fulfilled what I am supposed to do. My job is supposed to have them walk away and be very happy and flourishing with their relationship with their dog, right? And that's not easy sometimes. It depends. Every customer's different. Some people don't want to get off the couch. Not that these people are that way. You know, they're putting their 2 cents in, but they have busy lifestyles. So you've got to try to work your way through it and get them to a point where they're now flourishing with their animal, right? It takes time. So you hear me say it again and again. In the end, it's all up to the customer. What they put out is what they're gonna. What they put in, excuse me. What they put in is what they're gonna get out, right? All right, I'm working on 20 minutes. I could probably yak the whole way to LA, but I don't need. You're probably getting bored by now. An hour and a half of me yakking at the screen is gonna be a little much. All right, Mark Ferrasci, ProTech Dog Training. So think about it. What do you need to do to build strength in your animal? Okay, as a puppy. People, places, things. It's not just socializations and understanding how to get and thinking about how do I get this dog to have strength, right? And agility and everything you need to do. It's more than just heel, sit down, stay, right? And it is an art in my mind, but it's practice for you guys that are trainers that are just getting your career started and you've got a couple dogs under your belt and you're starting to think about this. How do I create that end product? And there's a lot more dogs than just protection. Right? What happens if I wanted a service dog? What would I need to bring out that dog's traits? What would that dog need to be like? And what would I need to see in that animal that I'm trying to read and develop in that animal? What do I need to see in a scent dog? You know, scent work, right? That's an art in itself. And I don't have any experience in those areas as much. I've had a little bit. I did a bomb dog and got certified with a bomb dog, which was Maury. He's now an executive protection dog in Texas. But that's what I'm talking about. Now, there's a lot of things you can do with dogs. Search and rescue, there's all kinds of things. Each one of those dogs needs a certain type of... I've got Red right now. Red's a Rhodesian Ridgeback hound dog, right? And I've decided I want to get him into being an emotional support / trauma dog and try to get him placed with a fire department or something. He would be a great dog for that. But it's because I see something in the animal that fulfills that niche, and I want to try to find a fire department, find an officer that wants to go in that direction, and then create a program for Red. And that's because Red fulfills that part of the genetic makeup, right? He's going to be a great dog for that. So, all right, I'll let you guys go. Mark Ferrasci, ProTech Dog Training. We are now in, what the heck's this town? I don't even know what the town is. It's where Charlie Brown's is at, off the 138. We're going through there right now. All right, guys. Thank you much. You guys have a good day.